there, everyone. Hope everyone here is having a good evening. We are going to be going over a video tonight of, let's see here, Sean McDowell talking to a guy named Richard Gallagher. But yeah, before we do that, just kind of say hi to everyone who's in the audience. Who do we got going here tonight? Oh, hey, Ember's here. Let's get him added.
Hello.
Hey, Ember. How you doing?
Oh, multitasking. You know this.
Oh
The
yeah,
usual.
I know the feeling. Uh, you're in the down under, aren't you? You said right,
Oh no, I'm
or you're in Germany?
I'm in New York State.
Oh, New York. Okay, sorry, I got my wires crossed there. I was talking to
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
else. I talked to
It's all
David,
good.
I talked to David who's in Australia, and I was talking to somebody in Germany. But anyway, my bad. I'm sorry. That's not too bad.
That's all right. I'm digitally in Australia. I've got my other computer checking out the eclipse.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
That's why you mentioned Australia. I gotcha. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. So let's say hi to everybody here. So Nitty's here. Welcome, Nitty. Hey, Nitty, if you want to join us, I sent you a StreamYard link in your Twitter. If not, no big deal. I know I didn't ask you ahead of time. I just gave it to you and said, hey, join if you want. So if you don't want to, no big deal. Eddie's watching us from a bar. So cheers, Eddie.
Awesome.
Hope you're drinking something good. Speaking of Australian, I'm actually drinking a Foster's
Foster's.
tonight. Yeah. I kind of developed a taste for these over the pandemic. I used to not like Foster's very much, but I think as I've gotten older, I think I like more and more bitter beers, you know. So I built a taste for these over like the pandemic. Same thing with IPAs. Used to not like IPAs, and now I kind of do. So I don't know.
Hey, tastes evolve. I didn't used to like
Yeah,
iced teas, and then suddenly I did.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yep. Prag's here. Hey, Prag. Stephanie, hi. Good to see you. And then American Cuban, watch out, a demon behind me. What? Talking about that the guy? Piranha Plant? That's not a demon. Yeah. So hey, Nitty, welcome. Let's get you in here.
Hey,
Hey,
hey.
Nitty, how you
It's a
doing?
nitty.
I caught parts of your stream this
Oh,
evening.
cool.
I
Nice.
was preparing for this one. I really wanted to sit and watch, so I stopped in and said hi, and then I popped out because I was busy prepping for this one.
Yeah.
But cool. And then we also got Tux. Tux is here. Hey, Tux. Carrie Ann. Welcome, welcome. And Melody Joy. Here for the demons. Yeah, let's talk demons tonight. I think demons has been like the theme of the month for my channel. So yeah, I will go ahead and share the screen. So we got. Oh, I guess before we begin, anybody have anything else they want to say? Say hi to family, friends, anything? No.
No.
All right.
Hey, everybody.
All right. Okay, so we got a video tonight. So this is Sean McDowell talking to a guy named Richard Gallagher. Richard Gallagher he's not an exorcist. He's very, very clear that he is not an exorcist. He merely advises exorcists, which changes everything. But so yeah, he's a I think McDowell here in the title is kind of overselling him. McDowell says he's the world's leading psychiatric authority. But when I do a search for his name, the only thing that comes up about him is just his participation in exorcisms, or rather, as a consultant to exorcisms. It's really quite unknown whether he actually participates or not. But anyway, yeah. So he's been in the exorcism business for like 20, 25 years now, according to him. And in this video, Sean's going to interview him, and they're going to talk about first and foremost evidence, and then they're going to go into what it takes to become an exorcist, and then so on and so forth. So we'll just kind of work through this. It's a 1 hour video. I doubt we'll get through it tonight. But
Play
yeah,
it
let's kind of
at 2x.
take a look. I'll play it at 1.5.
There you
It's a
go.
little, yeah. So this guy does tend to ramble a bit, and
Oh, my
actually,
favorite.
yeah. He's he's an older guy. A lot of stories probably, so he does ramble quite a bit. Yeah. So and James Fodor did a James Fodor did a review of this guy or response to this guy about 3 weeks ago, except it was Gallagher with Cameron Batuzzi from Capturing Christianity. And I watched that 3 weeks ago. And then when I was watching this one today, for a moment, my brain was like, wait a minute, I'm about to review the same video that Fodor did, because this guy's like line by line in some areas. It's like the same exact pitch, until I went and confirmed, oh, in fact, it was Cameron Batuzzi and not Sean McDowell. So
It's like they have a script or something.
it's kind of like they have a script, or he likes giving interviews, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, they do like the guests on these like bigger Christian channels are incestuous, so they just they pass them around like swingers. Like, hey, are you going on? You going on cross-examine this week?
They're all
Man,
poly.
yeah. Oh yeah, just like STIs, bad ideas go around too. Like that's kind of what we're going to see here tonight too. Eddie Dean, another $5 super chat. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. It's legit when it says world's leading. Yeah. I definitely think Sean McDowell
Checks
oversold
out.
him here on that. Yeah. Because I looked him up and all I could find was demons. He is a real doctorate holder. He's a tenured professor at a university in New York, I think. Which kind of comes into play a little later on in the video, which we might not cover, but he essentially drops a line, I don't care what people think about me, I'm tenured. So it gets kind of fun there. Anyway, yeah, so let's just kind of roll into this. So this is going to be straight from the beginning. I have some notes here, and if you guys want me to pause, just yell at me or raise your hand or something, and we'll just kind of just walk through it and see how it goes. So anyway, Sean McDowell talking to Richard Gallagher.
What is the evidence demon possession is real? And what do exorcisms actually entail?
I'm
Our guest
getting
today,
right into
Dr. Richard Gallagher, is the author of a book.
What was that number?
Getting right into it. It's just like,
Getting
what
right
is the
into it, yeah.
evidence?
That's, I mean, of the apologists that I've kind of been exposed to over the past few years, I think Sean McDowell, and I should have prefaced this too, Sean McDowell and I think Michael Jones, I like them the most. I think those two individuals are probably some of the most genuine I've bumped into, or at least viewed. I like Sean McDowell's style. Don't necessarily agree with his ideas, but I enjoy kind of the person he is and listening to him. So yeah, and he's straight to the point, so it's great.
That is a plus. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Michael Jones, you said?
Inspiring philosophy.
Inspiring philosophy.
Oh, okay. I keep confusing him with Mike Winger.
Yeah, yeah, Mike Winger, that's another one. I think, just from like the vibes you get from people when you talk to them, I think Sean McDowell and Michael Jones, I think they're very genuine. They're nice people. I think they're genuinely trying to come to proper conclusions. While most other apologists kind of have like a layer of sleaze over them that I can't get around, you know. But no, Sean McDowell, I would probably love to sit and have a beer with him or something like that and just talk, because he seems like a really cool, genuine guy. And like I said, he's straight to the point, which I really appreciate.
Called Demonic Foes is going to help us think through these issues and more. Dr. Gallagher, you are a board.
I did cut McDowell off there. Richard Gallagher is the author of a book called, he just said it, I forgot it. Let's see here. Richard McGallagher. It's on Amazon. It's whopping $30 on Amazon. Demonic Foes. My 25 years as a psychiatrist investigating possessions, diabolic attacks, and the paranormal. It's a very long title. Anyway, he writes the book.
Certified psychiatrist who teaches at Columbia. You did your residency at Yale. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to jump right in because this topic is so serious and important. How did you, as a medically trained doctor, get pulled into the world of demonic possession?
Well, first, thank you, Sean, for the invitation. I always tell people I didn't volunteer. And I'm not sure it's actually a particularly good idea to volunteer for this work. I'd like to feel it was providential because everything I've done, I've been asked to do over the years, to the point where, as a physician...
So he didn't volunteer. He was called into it.
He got drafted.
Providentially. The demon life, I did not choose the demon life. The demon life chose me.
Exercise me.
It all started when the Dark Lord came for my kittens.
Yeah, he's on a mission of vengeance against the demon army. I don't know.
They're like Mortal
he's the
Kombat
Catholic
Scorpion.
John Wick.
Yeah, like John Wick, Mortal Kombat. get over here, join these exorcists, exorcise some demons for me.
That reminds me of I can't remember if it was a comedian. Somebody said, what if the Catholics are actually summoning all these demons to generate more work for their exorcists?
That would be a good strategy. Yeah. I think wasn't that like a plot line in The Witcher? You ever play the Witcher video game series?
Mm-mm.
The Witchers were so effective at killing monsters that they were the monsters' population was dwindling and they weren't making as much money. So they started breeding monsters and releasing them so that they can go and hunt them and make more money. Yeah. That would be a really good grift, I think. The Catholic Church just generating the monsters and also taking care of them. That would explain why the coffers are so deep.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going then. But yeah, so just to recap, it was providential. Gallagher was called into the demon exorcising, slaying, whatever you want to call it, service. He didn't choose it. Yes, exactly.
I have probably seen more of these kind of cases than, according to my chairman, than any physician in history. I'm not an exorcist, but I was asked about 25 years ago by a local priest who somehow got my name, I guess because I was a practicing Christian and I was an academic psychiatrist. I was at Cornell Medical College at the time. And he
I find this kind of interesting because he's a Catholic. There's an Inside Edition article that I looked up earlier today. He does not mention his Catholicism once in this video, or I believe also in the Camera Batuzzi video. He just calls himself a Christian.
Drives me crazy.
But he in the Inside Edition article, he says he was raised a Catholic, likely is still very much a Catholic. I mean, Catholicism, that's like exorcism institutionalized. You know, they have training, they have classes, they have apprenticeships. They this is a service of that church. So anyway, I'm not sure if that's purposeful or not, but maybe
I have to imagine it is. It's
yeah.
There's a lot of Protestant groups who really, really don't like Catholics. They refer to Catholicism as false church and so forth.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to alienate half his audience. It's much like there's a Catholic geologist who works with Answers in Genesis. And whereas every other time a Catholic shows up on the scene, they make a big deal about it and ridicule them because this dude's on payroll. They mention it once, like 7 paragraphs deep in an article, and then the rest of the time he's just a Christian.
Yep. Yeah, keep it nice and vague. Get appeal to the largest audience possible. Cameron Batuzzi made this mistake recently. I think I mentioned it on I mentioned it on Godless Granny a couple days ago, but that whole thing 4 months ago where he announced his switch to Catholicism. I guess he was supposed to be confirmed by Easter. And then just a week ago, he released a tweet saying, hey, a lot of you are asking whether I was confirmed on Easter like I was supposed to or not, you know, like I said I would. He basically said, I'm not going to reveal that. In fact, now my denomination's a private matter. Just like complete backpedal on the whole thing. Yeah, little late. Because he planted a flag on one side and he alienated the other half of his audience. I think he probably didn't think that would be a bad business decision. I'm just speculating at this point, but I imagine that probably affected his business.
Well, his net loss to gain of patrons after that event, by the way, just so everyone knows, and I get to say it in a
he got more patrons,
format.
right?
No, he almost doubled his
Yeah.
Patreon membership. So he might have lost some Protestants, but he doubled it in Catholics. So, you know, and then, I just want everyone to know that if I convert, I'm going to get flown to the Vatican and have a live stream. And then I'm going to tell you it's a private matter, just so everyone's clear.
I know. It was such a spectacle. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, this is too much of a spectacle. There was some speculation, because I guess his wife is still Protestant. I guess there was probably some speculation that she was getting harassed. Probably
it was happening, yeah.
Probably by Christians saying, hey, you should respect the headship arrangement in your house and convert. Do what your husband does because you're the wife. I would imagine she probably got an email, 2 of those at least. But yeah, so if you want to make money off of Christians, don't say what kind of Christian you are. That's the moral here.
He said to me, Dr. Gallagher, would you please evaluate a case for me as an exorcist? He was a prominent exorcist in America. I'd like to get a psychiatric opinion, even though I think it's a demonic case. And I remember, Sean,
So he was called in for consults, as they say in the doctor biz. Called in for consults. Told immediately, I think this is a case of demonic possession, but I need you to do something, like
Be psychiatric about it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
like,
probably to evaluate whether it was in the person's head or actually a demon.
Yeah, which how do you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, psychiatry is hard enough to determine what kind of a natural cause it is. How do you cross the line into whether it's a natural or supernatural cause?
Well, from the biblical accounts themselves, the manifestation of the demon is almost indistinguishable from the physiology of the person, right? Like, what's a symptom of a demoniac? Well, they're super strong, or they're saying things they shouldn't know. But like, what if that's just some kind of hysteria? What if that's just like a rush of adrenaline? Like, you can't just like, what tool in the DSM or whatever helps you distinguish, oh no, that's supernatural? And I'm sure he'll be like, well, they floated or something.
Well, I was thinking about that, but if they're, levitating above the bed or, spitting literal fire or whatnot, you don't need a psychiatrist. It's clearly supernatural at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it really feels like because throughout, I mean, Nitty, you basically predicted the future with a few of those things you just said, because that's exactly what he's talking about. But it's like he's being called in as a consultant. He's not getting directly involved in it. He's being passed documentation saying, hey, we have this person exhibiting these symptoms. What do you think? And it's like the Catholic Church is just trying to get a rubber stamp from somebody that's not directly associated with their group, or at least, like their exorcist group. Like, they're trying to get a rubber stamp from a medical professional for reasons, whether it be liability or just to, cross the T's and dot the I's or something. It's like, why? At that point, if you think it's demonic possession, what is a psychiatrist going to do for you? Like, a psychiatrist might say, oh, this person might have this or this, but none of that will falsify the demon claim in the situation there. It's not going to, like, somehow show that the demon is not the case. I mean, you could
physical therapy.
Yeah, you could have schizophrenia and be demon possessed, right? Isn't that possible? Like,
sure.
If the person's demon possessed, and so like, what's the psychiatrist going to do? And I guess the way he mentions it too, he says that he was just kind of contacted because he was a Christian. He doesn't really give any details about that. Like, was it a Catholic priest contacting him, a Catholic? Like, is that how they knew who he was?
He did say priest earlier, and it may be because it was like in his diocese or something, and the priest is like, I know just the guy, because he's the only psychiatrist in like the whole parish or whatever.
Yeah. Like, it's very, very vague, and I understand he's doing this in a interview, so we can't give all the details. But this interview is very similar to the Cameron Bertuzzi interview that James Fodor did, and it's essentially the same kind of vagueness around his backstory. So anyway, keep going.
Telling him at the time, there was a certain amount of what we called the satanic panic at the time. You may remember that period where people were Satanists around every corner. And I said, well, Father, I finished my training at Yale, and quite frankly, I'm a little skeptical of a certain amount of that stuff.
So the satanic panic, so he's already describing a time when a lot of people are already primed to believe this, because this was kind of a thing in the 90s. Everyone was seeing demons everywhere.
Oh yeah, don't play D&D because it'll eat your soul.
Yeah. And then he also goes into the classic grifter setup. I'm not saying he's not genuine here, but what he's about to say is a classic grifter setup of, I was a doubter, I was a skeptic until I investigated, and now I believe. He's about to do that. So I'm going to rewind 10 seconds. Yeah. Go back a couple seconds and listen to it again.
I'm an exorcist in America. I'd like to get a psychiatric opinion, even though I think it's a demonic case. And I remember Sean telling him at the time, there was a certain amount of what we called the satanic panic at the time. You may remember that period where people were Satanists around every corner. And I said, well, Father, I finished my training at Yale, and quite frankly, I'm a little skeptical of a certain amount of that stuff. And he said to me with a smirk, he said, well, then you're the perfect guy for the job, because they wanted someone skeptical. So over the years.
So he basically said, I was skeptical, I was a doubter, I didn't believe. And genuine or not, that is the classic grifter setup. That's how you build that trust. That's how you build confidence in your audience that you are genuine and that you were genuinely moved by some evidence.
And the bitch of it is, in this case, it's plausible, because if I was the priest, I would want someone skeptical. Be like, come check out my blind spots, double check, peer review my papers, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And the funny thing too is that he's already a Catholic. He already believes this stuff. He wasn't really a skeptic.
Yeah.
Like, he might be skeptical about this one case, but overall he thinks these things happen if he follows church history and doctrines.
I've noticed that a lot of Catholics are, what do they call them? Cafeteria Catholics? Like, they're raised Catholic, they're socially Catholic, but they don't really believe this stuff, especially the weirder stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're regularly going to a diocese and a priest knows you, I mean, you're going to be, I feel like you're leaning closer to having some supernatural beliefs.
Yeah, exactly.
But
like, I mean, just being, just being a Catholic, you're going to have supernatural beliefs. You already believe in a God. You believe in angels. You believe in demons. Like, you're already
maybe
past,
ghosts.
Maybe ghosts. Yeah, all the saints. Yes, exactly. Saints do miracles, and that's how they become saints after they die.
Demigods.
So he's already a believer. So him calling himself a skeptic, it's already losing its effectiveness there, because he wasn't a skeptic about all these other things. But for some reason, like, he'll believe all those things. He'll believe he'll believe God, demons, angels, saints. But demons messing with humans, that's a line too far. That's a little bit too far for this guy's taste, until he goes into his evidence that he's about to bring up here soon.
Since he and a few other exorcists would send me these cases to evaluate, I was later invited to join the International Association, to write articles, to write a book.
He has sent cases to evaluate.
Because
really quick, he sent cases to evaluate. He doesn't go evaluate the cases himself. He has sent something.
I was asked, which I would like to
Third-hand
feel
diagnostic is always the way to go.
Than if I rushed in where angels fear to tread.
Sure. So take us back to that moment where you're asked to consult on a case. Maybe it's the first time you saw somebody that you thought, this person is genuinely possessed or experiencing a diabolical attack. And how did it affect you?
Well, let me digress for a minute, even though there's a lot of confusion about terminology. There are people who are possessed where an evil spirit, in my opinion, unequivocally takes over the body and the control of the individual. And then there are slightly more common, although also rare, there are things we tend to call in America oppressions. This first case was an oppression. It was a woman who was being beaten up by spirits.
So before we go into that anecdote, so I didn't know about this until I was watching this tonight. There are two types of demon disturbances. There are straight up possessions, where he's going to get into it. The demon takes control of your body. And then there are oppressions, where you're not possessed, but your stuff happens to you. Like, he's about to talk about a woman getting beat up. I did a video on this 3 weeks ago with the demon video that I did, where the demons were throwing him a blanket party every night. Like, he was trying to sleep, and the demons are punching him in his sleep and rattling windows, giving him pain and headaches. So I didn't know that. They actually classify the different types of demon occurrences, and he's given this in response to Sean McDowell, asking him, how did you feel when you first saw this? He, for some reason, decides he wants to explain what demon types of possession are before.
I actually used to believe in like 7 different categories of like satanic demonic involvement.
Really?
So
do you remember them?
Yeah, and they were divided by covert tactics and overt tactics. Okay. So like Satan could like his covert tactics would be like temptation, seduction, temptation, seduction, doubts,
just doubts.
Really?
The voice in your head that's like, you can't do this, you're terrible at this, that sort of thing.
Way to shut down critical thinking.
Yeah,
even a doubt is demonic influence.
And then like the overt stuff would be like persecution, oppression, or possession. Okay, so that's 6 of them. I think there's 2 other ones, but I'd have to go get the papers.
That's very reminiscent of what the Jehovah's Witnesses believe, but they don't actually like label it like you just did.
Yeah, we
Like,
had labels for all of it.
You have an actual structure around it. Jehovah's Witnesses are just random scattershot, just scary stories, you know. Eddie Dean, another $2. I am possessed, and the demon likes Heineken. Eddie's having a good time at that bar, I think. Cool. All right, yeah. Yeah, Jehovah's Witness is very similar. Just like I said, they don't structure it, they don't name it, they don't classify it. They just simply whip out a demon story whenever they need to kind of stir up some fear and generate some obedience. And that's kind of what you see in their publications. All right, let's keep going. We're going to talk a little bit about demons beating up this woman. As terrible as that sounds.
Slightly more common, although also rare. There are things we tend to call in America oppressions. This first case was an oppression. It was a woman who was being beaten up by spirits. She and her husband had traveled actually a couple of thousand miles to see this exorcist on the East Coast. And she would literally feel pummeled, even in front of various people like her friends. She would feel pummeled by evil spirits while she was in her house. And everybody felt very helpless. So I was asked to sort of make sure that this woman was not psychotic or something, that her story made sense, that there wasn't any medical explanation. For instance, we did blood tests. She had bruises, but people can get bruises for different medical reasons, including low platelets, that sort of thing. So I did a medical and psychiatric workup, and I said to the priest, Father, I can't find any medical or psychiatric reason why this is happening. The woman appears very sane and very credible.
Okay. So, woman traveled across the country to go see the priest, according to him. Not him and the priest, just the priest. So we really have no idea where he is relative to them. She's claiming that she's getting beat up. He didn't say she had bruises. He simply said that bruises can show for other reasons, which I don't know why he really threw that in there. What kind of gets me here is that he's asked to examine all the natural possibilities by the priest. And he's supposed to somehow eliminate all natural possibilities so that the priest has his rubber stamp to say, yep, it's demons. Like that's
like
kind of
they do with miracles, but the other way around, I guess.
Yeah. And this is the classic argument from incredulity, if you look at it. Like I'll rewind it just a little bit. We'll listen to it one more time, some of it. But kind of like the classic argument of incredulity is basically saying, I can't imagine how X is true, therefore X is false. So he's basically saying, I can't imagine how a natural explanation can explain this, therefore a natural explanation doesn't explain this. So yeah, let's take a look at that.
So I said to the priest, story made sense, that there wasn't any medical explanation. For instance, we did blood tests. She had bruises, but people can get bruises for different medical reasons, including low platelets, that sort of thing. So I did a medical and psychiatric workup, and I said to the priest, Father, I can't find any medical or psychiatric reason why this is happening. The woman appears very sane and very credible. So even though I was a little skeptical, Father, your explanation that this is something demonic actually makes a lot of sense to me. And then after that, I began to evaluate a lot other cases, including possessions.
Okay, so that was his rubber stamp. He said, I can't figure out any natural cause for this, therefore it's demons. You have your authorization.
With the religious folk, I can't figure out any possible way life came to be on Earth, so it must have been the God.
Yeah. And
how old was the woman again?
According to my notes, not in my notes. I don't know. I don't even know if it was mentioned. We can rewind and see.
Actually, maybe I'll hit the transcript. Hang on.
Yeah, maybe try the transcript out. This is near this is timestamp 5:14 where he finished talking about this. So it's probably minute 4 to minute 5.
You can keep going and I'll find it.
Sure. But yeah, it's like argument from incredulity. He's basically saying I can't explain this via some natural means, therefore it's not natural means that caused this. And his last comment there is interesting because he basically said, and once I realized this, I then began analyzing a lot more demon cases. So he ingested, he swallowed that one bad assumption, and that got the ball rolling into his career of probably plenty more bad assumptions.
Well, I mean, if he's getting paid for it, then
Yeah.
you have a little motivation to
Oh.
accept the thing.
Oh, rest assured, he's not in this for the money. He will explain that later. He is not in this for
okay.
the money.
Okay.
Yeah, rest assured, Ember. He's not in it for the money. Oh, hello. Oh no, a demon possessed my wallet and sent me $2. I must be in league with the demons because they're literally sending me Hillel's money.
It's a neat trick.
Yeah.
The
Speaking of which,
age
speaking of
isn't
which-
said, by the way.
okay. All right. Yeah, I remember there's another woman later on he talks about with. He mentions either her age or weight. I think it's her weight because there's a reason why her weight's relevant. But anyway, demons sending people money. On the right hand side here in my suggesteds, here's another 3 videos from Sean McDowell. Mind reading and demonic possessions, 330,000 views.
Dang.
Sean McDowell, demons, big questions, 117,000 views. And then Are Demons Ghosts, 75,000 views. Demons, the topic, and also you go to Camera Christianity's, Camera Batuzzi's Capturing Christianity's page, go to his page, and you'll see the same trend. Demon videos draw views. Like, it's big money. This is on the mind of Christians. Yeah, exactly. Just bring that money in.
If the love of money is the root of evil, is Satan driving traffic to these videos?
That's a great question, Nitty.
Well, I mean, we could use this stream as an experiment, I suppose.
I suppose we could, yeah. We're at 18 people. I think my last peak was 19 people in a stream. So if we go past 19 people, that's evidence. Probably not good evidence, but it's evidence.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right, yeah, take a moment. All right, we will see here. Keep on going. Why not? Anyway, yeah, to recap, huge logical fallacy. Sean McDowell, hook, line, and sinker on that fallacy. Richard McGallagher said he basically started his career in this on that fallacy and is going to get even weirder at this point.
So let's talk about for a minute, if you will, how somebody is diagnosed with a demon possession. I know you said.
Oh, and by the way, we're now past the evidence. Like the first 5 minutes of video, that was, hey, show what's the evidence of this? We're now done with that. It was just anecdotes and claims.
An expression, he went where angels fear to tread. Why would an angel fear a demon? They
That's
have
a
the
good question.
power and they can tap into God. And angels are crazy beings, biblically speaking. There's like different classes of them. Some of them have weaponry. Like, why would they be afraid of a demon? Like, doesn't make any sense.
One angel is capable of slaughtering 185,000 Assyrians overnight, according to that Old Testament. But like, once you turn demon, do you lose that power? Like, why aren't demons just slaughtering people like that? If you want to sow chaos and destruction, like that's a good way to do it. Start killing thousands of people overnight, just randomly. Which raises the question: if an angel goes demon, does God take away some of his powers, but not all of his powers? Like, what does the demon lose?
Metaphysical transactions of this are questionable.
Yeah, like, but that also puts God in a position of, oh, you're a demon now. I'm going to keep you can keep this subset of powers, but I'm going to take these other powers away from you. So any demonic activity on the planet that's causing these issues, God is
especially if he's omniscient, he knows what abilities he took but left. Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, or an angel can come and just kill a bunch of kids overnight.
Yeah, like
those Egyptian kids.
Oh man, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like anything that a demon does, God is allowing that demon to do. So beating up that woman and bruising her, God is allowing that demon to do that.
Oh yeah.
And I think he realizes this issue because later on he's going to basically shift blame to the person that's being possessed. He's going to accuse the person of occult activities, practicing dark and evil rituals. I haven't confirmed it yet, but I believe he is very much against things like yoga and probably cartoons like the Smurfs or He-Man, because that's all gateways for demons into your life. It's very Jehovah's Witness-esque, actually. But yeah, he'll eventually get to shifting the blame onto the person being possessed as being at fault because they invited those demons into their life.
Said you're not an exorcist, but you do medical diagnoses. So what is that process like? And what are the signs where you conclude this is genuine either possession or oppression in some fashion?
Well, essentially, I'm assisting, usually an exorcist. I'm assisting the exorcist in making the discernment. Ultimately, I feel strongly that the spiritual clergy needs to take responsibility for the actual spiritual diagnosis, you might say. But
I liked this comment from him. Sean McDowell asked him, "What's your process of separating the natural from the unnatural causes?" And he immediately goes to, "Well, I'm brought in as a consultant, and honestly, the responsibility falls upon the clergy to make these decisions, not me," which kind of indicates to me that he wants to be involved in this, probably because it brings him fame or money or anything like that, but he doesn't want, he wants to be just far enough away so that if things go bad, responsibility doesn't come crashing down on him. He's not held responsible for kind of what goes on there. That's the impression I get. He basically, I think he literally said he assists the exorcist in making the discernment. He's not making the discernment. He's assisting someone else in doing that with his, medical expertise, which, like I mentioned before, the explanation's already hovering around demon possession. Before he's even involved, the suspicion is on demon possession because it is an exorcist coming to him.
The dice are
for
weighted.
that. Yeah, exactly. And as far as I can tell, he has not gone and visited a patient yet in any of it, in his story, and in future stories also. I think he very, very rarely sees a patient. So he's essentially sent medical documentation saying we've seen this behavior, this person said this, yada yada, and then he's making a discernment based off of that without actually ever seeing the person. Because I'm not sure how the medical stuff works around it, but if he actually sees the person and he's a psychiatrist, does that get him into the risk of any type of medical malpractice? Because even though they're not his patient, if he's there to evaluate them and then he consults on the final decision of whether it's a demon or not, is he incurring responsibility for that diagnosis? I don't know. It's all kind of sus because, like I said, it seems like he's just sitting in his office receiving mail, and he looks at the mail and goes, "Demon, yes. No, not a demon. No.
Oh, nice.
Demon, yes." I guess that's really what it feels like.
I need my third eye back.
Oh, hey, there you go. Oh, that's what that was.
Yeah, it's a
Oh, man,
googly eye my kids left over here. But
I don't have
I
any.
think he would have to operate on some like lay consultancy basis, right? There's no way he has to never record anything related to like a professional notes or say that this person is a client of any kind, because then that would certainly be like a non what do they call that, an unlicensed activity for a medical practitioner.
Do you know if he's actually licensed? Like he has the credentials and whatnot.
Right, that's an interesting point.
That's a good question. Let's look that up. I think his book description might have that
Hang
in
on.
it.
I'm gonna get something too.
Sure. Yeah, we'll take a short break from the video and kind of look at his background a little bit. Yeah, so his name is Richard Gallagher. I'm going to try ahead and... Can I do another screen share of the other tab? I can. Great. Hey, new tab. Okay, so Richard Gallagher. And when you do a search on his name, like pretty much everything is essentially demon. Like Esquire is talking about his demon possession expertise, quote unquote. HarperCollins is a publisher. There's his book. ZipDoc. Okay, this might be him. Okay, Dr. Richard Gallagher, MD, psychiatrist, Valhalla, New York.
Nice.
Yeah. I guess he's got some ratings. He's highly rated psychiatrist. Doesn't really give us any information about his. Oh, I'm sorry. I opened a new tab. You only see the one tab. I'm sorry. I will. I'm still getting used to this StreamYard thing. Richard Gallagher, PhD. Oh, I don't think that. Oh, that's totally not him. YouTube. That's the video we're watching right now. Board certified psychiatrist. Diagnosis. This is Daily Mail.
Oh, reliable sources.
Yeah. So take it with a grain of salt, folks. Oh, Shannon Q's here. Shannon, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so... Oh, yeah, the 90-pound woman. This is who he's going to talk about a little bit later on. So, yeah, this is when he starts going into the crazy stuff that, like, Nidhi mentioned with levitation and speaking in tongues or speaking other languages. But anyway, we won't go too much deeper into looking at that, but or looking into him. But I know he's board certified. He's tenured. He's a professor. He actually teaches, and I guess he actually practices because we saw the medical review page on him.
I really wonder how that works. Like teaching, like kids go into class and it's like, oh, this is the guy who evaluates demons and whatnot. Or if he's got a private practice, how he advertises, come see the demon doctor. I don't know. That's got to be a trip.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I wonder what the students feel like going to a classroom and he's talking about psychiatry, but like the students know, oh, this guy like advises on thousands of exorcisms and he makes money off of this. Like, that would kind of shake my confidence in his. I don't know. I would kind of like shake my confidence in his. I don't say knowledge because obviously you can be you can have encyclopedic knowledge about a topic like psychiatry and still be super gullible. I don't know. It was like your reputation takes a hit at that point, in my opinion, where you're participating in that kind of stuff. But then trying to like participate in the actual field of science as if you're a normal scientist, but you're on the side, you're doing all this supernatural stuff. I don't know. Kind of crazy to me. All right. Let's keep going then. So the question was, just to recap, the question was, how is someone diagnosed? And then he went into the different types of demon possessions. Or actually, no, that's later on in my notes. Anyway, let's keep on going.
These are kinds of diagnoses that require a lot of rigor and require a certain amount of scientific knowledge. Sometimes it's very, very obvious, and a very experienced exorcist can often tell fairly quickly. In America, at least in some of the mainstream churches, like the Catholic Church, where the bishops require a medical or psychiatric evaluation, I get involved at that point.
So he just said that the Catholic Church requires a medical professional's diagnosis in order for an exorcism to progress.
I think I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah. He just literally said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another gripe that I have with this. If you truly believe that someone is possessed by an agent of Satan, hey, hold up. We got to go get the right certificates.
Yeah. There's a process. We're the Catholic Church. We have a bureaucracy here, and there's a process for taking care of these supernatural baddies.
Well, yeah, but I get on the one hand, they're just trying to cover their asses from hurting people more than they already basically do. But on the other hand, like, that all be damned, right? You believe you have the true method to help or heal this person. Just do it.
It's fine. Fucking swear. I don't mind.
Okay. Fucking do it.
We're more than 7 seconds in.
It feels like a really weird, like they're covering each other's asses. Like the Catholic Church is getting a real medical doctor in there to cover their asses in case something goes wrong. Because they can say, hey, we explored all avenues before we resulted to this exorcism. And then he's on the other side saying, well, I'm just an advisor. I just rubber stamp whatever comes my way, but I'm not really involved in the start of the case or even the end of the case. He just simply says, I don't see evidence or I don't see sufficient evidence for a natural cause here. And that's all the Catholic Church needs to take it to the next step. That's really what it feels like.
Yeah, I was
And
kind of wondering, like, what the board would do in that kind of situation. And if Shannon's still hanging around, maybe she could shed some light on it. Like, if a board calls him to testify and is like, how can you call yourself a scientist if you're diagnosing people as demon possessed? That's not science. That's not good medical practice.
Yeah.
But
and on top of that, he's diagnosing them from his office. Likely, he's just looking at paper. Like, I understand doctors diagnose with paperwork a lot, like without seeing a patient. But this is demon possession. Like, most of this is a visual confirmation of what's going on there, right? Like, you would think he should be seeing a patient, or actually visually observing a patient before making a call on whether or not it's demon possession or not. Like, yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead, continue on, Andrew.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I stepped on you.
I think you've got the right of it, that he pretty much just says, I've investigated all the medical things I know, and this is not any of those. So the church has to take it from here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also, he said it requires like a scientific like evidences. Okay, name one thing that's actually scientifically verifiable about the demon itself, please.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Other than
Mark.
random affects of a person that are equally explainable in naturalism. So
Yeah, and even with the conclusion of demon possession, how do you falsify that? Like, if somebody concludes, hey, it's a staph infection, how do you falsify that? Well, you check for the staph bacteria, and if you don't find it, it's not a staph infection. Like with demon possession, somebody calls demon possession on something. How do you falsify that? How do you say no? This is a bad diagnosis. Because once you cross that line into the supernatural, there's no way to falsify it. There's no way to determine whether that's a bad diagnosis or not. So hypothetically,
because when they get better, it's like, oh, the demon's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm reminded of that old thing about, you can't prove a negative, but we can. We do it all the time. Like, how do we know the Earth isn't flat? Because we know it's a globe. Yeah. Since it's a globe, it rules out it being flat. Similar thing here. If a person came in and did find a medical cause for the condition, that would rule out the demon diagnosis.
Yeah, the only real way to prove a negative is to show a contradiction with established facts. And like you mentioned with the globe, like we have evidence that the Earth is a sphere. Calling the Earth not a sphere contradicts with that, so therefore you prove that negative. But yeah, in the case of demons, what do you have to say that is not a demon? Like there's nothing to work off of. Once you've crossed that line into magic, now anything can happen, and there's no going back, because there's nothing to stop you at that point from saying, hey, hold on, maybe we're wrong here. There's nothing to stop you. Once you cross that line, just the sky's the limit in what can be possible, or what can be explained with the demon thing, with magic.
Yeah. And why does nobody ever try to like harness the demonic power? Like, see what you can do with it. Like, maybe you can communicate with the dead. Maybe you can pick next week's lotto numbers.
Use it. Yeah. Later on, they're going to talk about levitation, how multiple people had to hold somebody down onto the bed for 30 minutes to keep them from floating off. And I'm like, why are we harnessing this for air travel? Just hook up. Who needs gas in a Hindenburg? Just connect up a bunch of demon-possessed people to like a blimp, and off you go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Put one of those big old air fans, like on the swamp boats.
Yeah.
Vroom.
Not even an air fan. Just we'll hook up demon-possessed people to a fuselage. That'll be the floating part, and we'll hook up Richard McGallagher to the back of it, and that'll be the output of hot air, and that'll be propulsion.
Wow!
Look at me, I'm solving the energy crisis right now.
Hell
with bullshit. Yeah,
it's an efficient system.
But the criteria, I should emphasize, are quite rigorous. Essentially, you have to have very clear, you might say, phenomenological evidence that there is a foreign entity involved. Now, how do you do that? Well, in possessions, you're gonna see the manifestation in different ways of an evil spirit. Sometimes.
So anyway, he just to recap what he just said, he says that the criteria is quite rigorous. Evidence of a foreign entity is involved. You need evidence that a foreign entity is involved, and then he asks the question, how do you do that? So let's see if he answers his own question. Hint, he doesn't.
That spirit will take over the consciousness of the person, will even speak in a slightly different tone of voice. Remember, they're using the body of the victim. So they're actually using the person's vocal cords. They're going to sound a little bit like that, but they also clearly will seem like it's a foreign personality. Now, again, you have to make sure the person's not imagining this and has something like dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called multiple personality. You have to rule out things like that, let alone psychosis. But eventually, you often also see or get reports of seeing signs of, the lay public calls it the paranormal. We would call it the preternatural, things beyond the natural ability of a human being. For instance.
Okay, I don't want to get too far into that quite yet. So he just simply said that a spirit will take over the consciousness of a person. So he's talking about straight up possession here, which I'm guessing is the worst of the demon disturbances. He says that the person will speak in a slightly, I'm quoting, a slightly different voice. So it makes me wonder if Elvis, are Elvis impersonators demon possessed? That raises an important question there.
Or even heavy metal singers.
Yeah.
Well,
metal
okay,
singers.
in fairness, they probably are demon possessed.
Yeah. What was that one guy's name from Police Academy? The guy who did all the voices. Michael.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What was his name?
Yeah.
Was that Legion, maybe? Was Legion perhaps?
Could be.
Was Legion perhaps went into Hollywood because he got sick of her of
He was jealous of the Catholic Church's money. He wanted to get some money for, his side.
Yeah. So anyway, speaks in a slightly different voice. And then also he says, seems like a foreign personality. Seems like one. Not very. Michael Winslow. There you go, Doc Fearsome. You get 10 points there and a gold star for Michael Winslow.
I'm a 700-year-old demon.
So not very solid for how you determine whether a demon's in there or not. That's, in my opinion, that's pretty weak evidence. Consciousness is taken over, which you can't determine. Slightly different voice. Seems like a foreign personality. All right, let's keep on going.
Okay. The criteria are speaking a foreign language all of a sudden that the person never studied, exhibiting superhuman strength of some sort. I dealt with a woman once who was possessed, and she was being exorcised by her Protestant deacon, who was kind of inexperienced, and they didn't hold her down. And when the prayer started, she jumped up. She took the guy. She was 90 pounds soaking wet. She took this 200-pound guy and threw him across the church hall, and sort of ended things very quickly in that session. But that.
So
I
here's an
noticed he
anecdote.
said Protestant deacon. So he's working with all the churches here.
It seems that way, yeah. Because I did a quick look up on what churches practice exorcisms, and I'm guessing it's, from my very brief review, it's Catholicism, Eastern Orthodox, some Lutheran.
Pentecostal?
Maybe Pentecostal.
I would say that they definitely do it.
Well, the way they play with snakes, I don't know. I could see it going either way.
That's a different. Pentecostals don't necessarily play with snakes. That's actually a very more niche form of the charismatics.
So
in America, anyway.
Yeah, and that's mostly in the South. I don't think there's any snake handling. I don't think there's any snake
South
handling.
Appalachia.
Yeah, there's like no snake handling like west of the Mississippi or north of something in North Carolina. I don't know.
Yeah, most recent one I've heard about was West Virginia, but I mean West Virginia may as well be Kentucky.
May as well. Got some beautiful mountains. Like I used to live in that area, but man, beautiful area. Really weird people. The small tangent. The funny thing about the snake handlers is that passage of what is it, Mark? It's likely a forgery.
The end of Luke. Or sorry, Mark. You're right.
Yeah, it's the end of Mark. It's like the pseudo end of Mark. Like they're getting their asses bit by rattlesnakes over a forgery. Anyway, Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, Lutheran churches do it. The Church of Latter-day Saints apparently does it as well, according to the wiki.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, I guess they have some forms of exorcism. Taoism, Chinese. Yeah, it's in multiple cultures. And in a different video, this guy basically tried to establish, it might be in this one, but I think it was a different one. He basically tried to establish that we see so many commonalities across so many religions and cultures of demons. That means it must be true because...
Just like the flood myth.
Yeah, just like the flood myth. And it's like, No, bonehead. Like we've had demon stories since the what is it, the Stone Age. Like our most ancient of ancestors believed in some type of spirits or demons.
Yeah.
Like it's naturally that's going to disseminate and evolve as the cultures diverge.
Yeah, and
It's
like we have evidence that ancient people practiced trepanation. Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it.
It's where they cut a hole in the skull
Oh
to
yeah,
treat something.
yeah.
We don't
let
know
the demons
what.
out.
Like presumably that could have been why.
Yeah.
But like,
I
so
remember.
you know,
I think
and they would heal. That's the even crazier part. Is that
Yeah.
they found a way to let that heal, so you'd just be walking around with a skull
Yeah.
hole.
Yeah,
from
I
your
think
exorcism.
I remember seeing some ancient skulls where holes were basically drilled into the head to let out demons for migraines or something like that.
Mhm.
And some of these individuals survive. Who knows how long? I mean, they have a hole in their skull, but yeah, that was it's crazy. Like the way they did that. You would think that drilling a hole in your skull too would make the headache worse, not better. But
Oh, actually, can I do a quick little anecdote?
absolutely.
Here.
In fact, do that. I'm gonna go grab another beer.
Yeah, you're good.
But yeah, go ahead.
So,
Yep.
speaking, Mark Reed said, "Did you know that the number one predictor of mental health issues in young adults is belief in demons?" So, not too long ago, I unfortunately had to go to. Well, I guess it's fortunate because I'm still here. I went to the psychiatric department of an emergency room, and I was, in their care for a couple hours. And in the room next to me, a patient was younger than me, I gathered, and they were being in a discussion with a social worker. And the social worker comes over, and they're talking pretty normally at first, and they hand them like you had a clipboard of things you had to fill out, for them to assess you and all that stuff. They hand them the clipboard, and the young person changes tone of voice after having the clipboard for a while and starts, speaking in what I would have said, as a believer. Well, is that demonic? But as a deconverted like type of person, I'm like, there's something deeply wrong with this person, right? And then the social worker comes back and they're like, why did you throw that clipboard? And then they like said, that person's not here right now, and then they switched like later on in my stay in that department to saying that they were the angel of the Apostle John was speaking through that person, and like trying to protect this person, and that the demons are plaguing him, and he's there to get your help and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this person needs some serious care. Like, and I felt I was like really sad. That experience was just riveting for the whole time I was there. I was like, wow.
Once again, Nitty, you are predicting the future because he will have a story like this.
Oh God!
Later on.
Good thing I have my third eye, because
yeah. Oh man.
Okay, Nitty, I'm gonna need tomorrow's lotto numbers if you don't.
This is just evidence, yeah. Hey Nitty, when am I gonna die? Can you see when that's gonna happen?
It's gonna be August 17th. I'm getting a 2064.
2064. Okay, that's pretty good. That's what, 40 years from now.
Medical
I'll be 80.
advancements and
I'll be
stuff.
Yeah. Okay. I'll send you the check in the mail for that prediction. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, you're welcome.
But no, he is going to go into a story like that. Basically, a woman who was claiming. We're probably not going to get to it tonight at the rate we're going. We'll probably have a part 2 of this later on.
Cool.
But he does get into how a woman first approached the Catholic Church or whatever church he was working with saying, I hear angel voices in my head. And then it turned into, I hear dead people in my head. Then it turned into, I heard demons in my head. And so, yeah, basically that whole thing just like, you see a close relationship between mental illness and delusions of spirits talking to you. Like the two seem to go hand in hand. Hi Sai is here.
Have you ever
Welcome,
watched
Sai.
Catherine
Buzz.
Crick do her deliverance ministry, like her open air
No.
deliverance ministry? Same kind of thing. Like people are walking up to her in like a public park, and they start speaking in a different voice, and she's like, "I pray in the name of the Lord Jesus, free this woman and man from the demon." It's Catherine Crick with. They're both K's, so yeah, something else for another time, I guess.
All right, let's continue on. If I haven't seen anybody else, if I haven't welcomed anybody else here, welcome everyone. I see Maya, I see Hive Sai. Shannon said hi
Whole
earlier.
gang's here.
It's probably getting close to 2 a.m. over in Nova Scotia. So yeah, thanks to everyone for coming. This is awesome. Let's keep on going.
Yeah, I'm showing 26
That strength
books
was
right
up.
now.
Yeah.
Obviously beyond the human. And then a third major criteria, they call in Latin latra, L-A-E-T-R-A. It's sort of the revelation of hidden knowledge that the person would have no reason for believing. One of the more dramatic cases that I dealt with who was possessed, I call her Julia. And again, whenever I use a name, it's confidential. In my book, I write about different cases.
Okay, so he just basically said whenever I use a name, it's confidential. So I think Julia is his like prime alias, which I understand. I mean, I used to work in a healthcare company. HIPAA is important to maintain confidentiality with people. I understand all that. It's also very convenient for him because he doesn't have to like point to any concrete cases.
Yeah. Biblical again. No confirmation of witnesses and things.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi,
And you know, the funny
Marja.
thing is, Marja, welcome. The funny thing too is that later on he'll also keep the he'll keep the confidentiality of the actual exorcists also. But then later in the video he'll tell you you can go talk to these people to confirm. But anyway, yeah, we'll get to that later.
It's like 500 witnesses.
Yeah, that's exactly the example he uses. Just like the 500 witnesses, go talk to them. Oh, by the way, they're all pseudonyms. Good luck. It's like, okay.
Need to hire a private investigator to get to the bottom of this demon and diabolicalness.
And here's the thing too. Okay, so like I said, I worked in the healthcare industry for a while, and HIPAA laws in the U.S. You got to protect identities, and you have to you have to protect basically diagnoses and treatments and medications being linked to an individual. Separately, it's okay. Like I could release somebody's medical records online. Not a good idea, but I could if I wanted to. As long as there's nothing to point it back to an individual, it's just medical records like treatment, medication, diagnoses, whatever. It's fine. Like as long as it's not linked to an individual, he could release information like that. He could redact personal information. He could redact anything that links to people and release that. Say, this is the evidence I used. But instead it's just, in this interview at least, it's just stories. And I haven't read his book yet. I don't know if I will ever or not, but I got a feeling he didn't do that in his book either. But it's just a feeling at this point because I don't think anybody wants to read a book full of medical records.
Yeah, you're probably right, though. I have read a couple medical journal articles over the years, and usually that's exactly what they do, is they're like, patient X demonstrated symptoms of this and this and this.
Yeah, because that's how doctors share their knowledge and how the field advances. Like, why isn't he sharing his knowledge of demon possession and all the evidence he has and how to diagnose? Like, imagine if doctors had access to this special form of knowledge that he possesses. Like, imagine if doctors had the ability to diagnose demon possession. How many more people, according to his worldview, how many more people could be helped? But instead, it's something that the church owns. Like, doesn't make sense.
To illustrate these phenomena, but of course their privacy is protected, even though all the details are true. The privacy is protected by my disguising their at least name and locale, that sort of thing. But she could tell me a lot of this hidden knowledge. For instance, she told me once how my mother had died much years earlier of ovarian cancer. But she also told me all kinds of things. In fact, she also had a number of other preternatural or paranormal abilities. She had with the.
So anyway, this is the same woman that he claimed, I think, through somebody across the room. He called her 90 pounds soaking wet, which I don't think he was there for. He says it was an anecdote that she threw somebody across the room, which I'm trying to picture that in my mind.
Well,
like, was it W?
It was a 200-pound deacon. So I mean, theoretically, a 90-pound person could do that because of how much of the 90 pounds is muscle and how much is bone
Yeah.
and etc.
But like, was it like WWE? Like she just picked them up and just like tossed them over the ropes?
Yeah.
Or yeah,
But
right?
the
Like
names have been changed to protect the innocent, so who's to
yeah,
say?
yeah. So like by the time it reached his ears, like how many people, how far had the story become embellished by the time it reached his ears? Because if you think of a 90, like he's describing her as a 90-pound woman, but if he wasn't there, how does he really know that? All he probably knows is it was, I don't know. But let's just say she's 90 pounds. Let's say that deacon was 200 pounds. If she had a running start and the guy was off balance or he wasn't expecting it, she could potentially run and knock him over. Like you could run into a guy and push a person across the room if you got the right angle on him at the right moment.
Yeah, angles and
There's nothing
leverage.
special about
I'm
this.
I'm reminded of a couple of things from my childhood. The first was my father had problems with alcohol, and sometimes he got unpleasant. And one night he threatened my mother, and I wasn't having it. So even though I was half his height, I put him through the front door. We lived in a trailer. The door's made of styrofoam, but still,
Yeah.
a child could do that to a grown adult. So another grown adult, even if very lightweight, theoretically could. And a similar situation with my sister, but for a different reason. She was just being a pain, and she had 9 years on me, so she was more than twice my age at this point. But because I was shorter than her, I was able to use the leverage of our height difference to flip her over my shoulder. And then she rolled down a hill, and it was a fun time. But there's there's things you can do even if you're at a physical disadvantage to translocate a person.
Yeah. I think any type of physics applied correctly, you can do a lot with a little bit of force. Like just look at levers and pulleys and stuff. Like you can do something just right, and you can get a big effect from a very small amount of mass. Anyway, there's no details around this. It's just, yeah, I heard she threw a guy across the room. So, yeah, it's not too convincing, at least from my point of view.
Parapsychologists call it remote viewing. She could actually see things at a distance. And when I asked her one time, and these were even outside of when she...
Oh, I'm sorry. He also mentioned that she was speaking in a foreign language, and that
Which one?
That might have been the previous one, but he just mentioned that she was far seeing, right? What was it called?
Remote viewing. Yeah.
Remote viewing. Yeah.
That's a coast to coast AM kind of thing. That's
yeah.
The psychics in the bunkers. Oh, Y-Files just did a thing on a guy who like could see the far side of the moon or something, and there were like Russians setting up nuclear weapons. I'm getting the details all kinds of wrong, but yeah, that's a big conspiracy theory thing.
Yeah. Pine Creek had some. He challenged somebody who claimed they could do remote viewing. He's like, I'm writing down a number. All you got to do is tell me what the number is, and I'll be a believer. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it doesn't work that way, or I can't do it all that well. You should talk to this guy. He'll do it a lot better.
Yeah. The guy that they mentioned in even in the Y-Files, he was supposed to be like the best in the world, and his hit rate was like 60%.
It's about average. Like best in the world hit rate. Like what were they actually testing with him? Like was it, what is this person wearing at 150 feet, or like was there an actual test?
As I understand it, they'd put their seers in a bunker and be like, okay, I want you to envision like Fort Bragg base and tell me how many tanks are lined up in the courtyard or whatever. But yeah, even in the best of circumstances, first of all, how anything that you can't actually confirm, like what are the Russians up to in Ukraine or whatever, you can't confirm that. So the stuff you can confirm, if your success rate is, just barely above random chance, I don't know.
Yeah, you would imagine, like get a bunch of people who can do that that distance viewing, and that would like revolutionize the spy, the spy craft. Like why send spies into a country? Yeah.
Why limit remote viewing to Earth?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Oh yeah. They tried to poke around Mars. if I'm remembering the story correctly, some of them saw Martians, some of them saw a deserted planet, hit or miss. Try to find nearby alien civilizations and mixed results on that one. The stories the way they read is fascinating because some of them come across like a police report, like the ones where they were reviewing stuff in the United States. Like I'm picturing a building in Manhattan, and there's a man on the third floor, and he's doing his taxes or whatever. But when they talk about another planet, they're like, yeah, there were purple clouds in the sky and cotton candy rivers and Cat Kerr kind of stuff, So it's there's a little difference in tone.
Yeah, it's very inconsistent, definitely. I'm watching the chat here. What's going on with systematic CSA? I'm sorry, Lena. Is this sarcasm or is this genuine criticism? I'm unsure.
No, it's just a factoid.
Okay.
Yeah, isn't that what Jehovah's Witnesses are in trouble
I'm
for
not,
in Europe right now?
I'm not disagreeing with her. Like the Jehovah's Witnesses are neck deep in CSA. This feels like I'm being criticized for not covering it.
No.
Okay. Well, maybe this.
You're fine.
Okay, maybe the scoundrels thing is just coincidence that my name also has scoundrels in it. Okay, cool. All right. Stephanie Holmes. For a moment, it seemed like criticism, but yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Stephanie Helms, quick tangent with CSA. From a psych point of view, how many Jehovah's Witness victims of CSA might have subliminated the source of that abuse to demons because the elders couldn't possibly be the source? Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah,
I have not heard of it.
It's a big box. I could see that with Catholicism too.
I could totally see that being used to deflect responsibility off of elders. Like, are you sure it was really this guy who did it to you? Are you sure you didn't just imagine it? All kinds of maybe gaslighting involved there. I could totally see that happening. I have no confirmed cases of that though. But if you were a sleazy elder and you really wanted to get the heat off you, that would be a good strategy probably.
Or
Stephanie Helm.
even a person like say in the case of like a child, right? Like the child, something bad happened to them. They need to tell somebody, but they can't tell people it was their pastor or priest or whatever
or
because
their parent.
Everyone trusts that person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the two witness rule Stephanie Holmes is asking about. So for those not in the know with Jehovah's Witnesses, they take an Old Testament scripture very literally about two witnesses to a transgression or to a spiritual crime. So, for instance, like hypothetically, if you have, let's say, child sex abuse, very rarely you're going to have a second witness to that child sex abuse. So, let's say a man abuses a girl. That girl goes to the elders and says, "This man touched me," or whatever. The elders won't do anything because there was not a second witness to that event. They'll take note of it, but they can't do anything. To them, a sin has not been established. They won't call the police. They won't talk to the guy. Won't discipline. Nothing. They need two witnesses.
Or they leave it in Jehovah's hands.
Yeah, that's the really disgusting bit. There is that when their hands are tied by their own rules, they're like, "Well, trust God. God will take care of it." And if that's the case, God has taken care of it in millions of dollars in settlements. So,
yeah,
anyway,
I did hear from Owen Morgan that they recently, I'm not sure how recently, but they did recently change the rules so that elders who don't have that two witness confirmation, they don't say you should call the police, but they did add like a line in the Elder's Handbook that says, if you think calling the police is appropriate, we won't pursue negative action against you for involving the outside authorities anymore. Which was a thing that they did for a very long time. If you brought in outside authorities, that was, against the head dudes.
Yeah. There are elders on record for they'll heavily discourage you from doing that. They'll ask you, what's more important, you get justice or you get justice at the expense of reproach being brought upon Jehovah's name, or you just leave it in Jehovah's hands and you trust your God. Like they're on record for pulling crap like that on abuse victims.
And the same thing with the Catholics too. That I've heard numerous cases where even if a priest gets caught, they shuffle the priest off to a different parish or diocese or whatever, And the other church fathers and whatnot will confront the victim and be like, listen, this could damage the reputation of Holy Mother Church.
Yep.
Which will cost thousands of people's souls. They'll all be damned because the church can't save them. So we need you to just like shut up about this.
Take it on the take one for the team. Just be quiet and take one for the team. Take one for Team God. Yeah, the witnesses do that same exact thing. And it's quite gross because that raises the question, like how many abused children, how much child abuse has to be covered up before it outweighs the glory brought to God's name? Like 1, 2, 10, 100, 1,000,000? Like what? Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, cool. Let's keep on going then. So, wow, I'm way behind on chats here. Yeah, and Telltale. Mention of Telltale. Yeah, another ex-Jehovah's Witness. I would love to talk to him one day. He's pretty neat. I like him. I've been listening to him for 4 or 5 years now. Anyway, let's keep going.
She was actually in a formal state of possession, although she had other signs very clear of possession. And when I asked her once, if she felt she was a gifted person, when you deal with spiritualists and channelers and that sort of thing, these people will often say, well, I was born gifted. And there probably are some spiritually gifted people. Having said that, Sean, she was very blunt. She said, nobody is born gifted. I get these powers through Satan. And I said, why do you think Satan gives you those powers? In this case, this was one of these rare, genuine Satanists who worshiped the devil and also received these powers.
So he was dealing with a rare, genuine Satanist who actually worshipped the devil. And this guy, and this woman was basically claiming that, yeah, she got her powers from Satan. But interestingly enough, like this, he hasn't gotten into any evidence about how he actually confirms this or not. Like I think that was supposed to be the whole point of this video, like in the original section, and then finally now, like there has been no evidence given yet. It's just claims.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sticky wicket for religious folk, because if you acknowledge that Satan has real power and really interferes in the world in some fashion, then you have to ask, okay, where the hell is God or the angels or the saints or whatever you've got?
Yeah. What are they doing during all of this? Like, they're watching all this happen. Like that woman previously, they're watching this woman get beat up and bruised by the demons.
By the
right?
The demons.
Demons, yeah. Like what are they doing? Because God at this point, God has not only said, I'm going to allow these demons to maintain these powers. I'm going to take away these other powers because they're no longer angels or demons. But I'm going to keep this set of powers, and you can keep that. And then he sits back and just watches them wreak havoc with these powers. Yeah. Okay.
Powers, unfortunately, at the same time, she became possessed, which she was well aware of, and I evaluated for quite a while.
So it sounds like the signs are supernatural strength, knowledge and information somebody couldn't have, whether that's at a distance. And in your book, again, Demonic Foes, you tell a story about, I believe it was a priest that maybe it was Julia or another person who said, I can see him is here wearing this jacket. You call him up and it perfectly matches up. Having information at a distance. The other one you mentioned is levitation. Now, in an interview I saw with you, you said you have not seen this, but you have reason to believe that there are credible cases of people who are being demon possessed or oppressed genuinely levitate.
You have to talk about the level of rarity of some of these things. A full possession is fairly rare.
He can't answer a question straight. He has to preface it with 3 paragraphs before he goes into explaining, people levitate under demon control. Like, he can't just say it.
We have to qualify it, though.
To qualify. It's too embarrassing to just say it, or you won't understand if I just say it. I have to massage the conversation to make this more acceptable. Yeah. All right. Nitty, you falling asleep?
No, I'm good.
Tired. Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Don't feel pressure to hang out.
You're good.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. That's not me on your. That's not me on your case. I'm just making sure you're all good. So yeah, get sleep if you need to.
I want to know, where's the video? Like,
yeah,
if he's observing this, clearly stuff can be recorded. I mean, you can blur out a person's face to protect their health document information and whatnot. Like, of course, if he had a video, then I'd be like, all right, now I want to analyze it and see if it's fake.
Yeah.
But at least it would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the same question I got too, is because has he been clear at all whether he's been in person for any of this or not? From my impression, he's reading this from like documentation from priests. I don't think he's been present for any of these yet. He will mention he was present for an exorcism later on, but so far he's been very vague about whether he's present for these or not. It could be that every single thing we've heard from his mouth at this point has been hearsay. Like, I'm fairly confident it's all been hearsay, but I would like to confirm that it is in fact hearsay, but he doesn't give us what we need for that. Go fig.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Sean isn't exactly a top-notch journalist with the hard-hitting questions, delving
Sean,
into, like, were you really there, or are you just reading reports?
Damn it, Sean.
Like I said, I like Sean, but he's really just gulping this down because this aligns with his religion, so he's not being very critical about this. I think I had that in my notes here later on, because the conversation's going to shift. We're only 11 minutes into this point. This is an hour video. The conversation shifts, and basically,
are we overqualifying?
Maybe, yeah. Sean basically just hook, line, and sinker, just like accepts it, and he's talking, and then he starts talking about this factually. Like any pretense of examining this kind of goes out the window, and it just becomes, tell us more tales, oh great exorcist assistant. Like, yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah. Oppressions, people who feel attacked in different ways by evil spirits, they're not common, but they're also fairly rare. Now, within possessions, we know both historically and in my experience, talking to about 35 different people who either witnessed it or experienced it themselves, even within possessions, levitation is rare enough so that even though I've had a lot of experience with these people, I've never actually seen it myself. But, I've talked to...
Okay, he just said it. He has never seen levitation himself.
Wow.
He's talked to people, but he's never seen levitation himself.
35 people, who, including a European professor.
35 people.
My acquaintance, who have sworn to me that they've seen these levitations. In the case of, yes, you were referencing the case of Julia.
So he just said that he's had 35 people swear to him that this levitation thing happened. I'm convinced.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's way better than 500 witnesses.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, and even if those 35 people were 100% genuine, 100%, 35 people were completely genuine, they could all be genuinely mistaken. And he just glosses over that possibility. It's as if, like I said, it's as if critical thinking kind of goes out the window, because obviously this aligns with known reality. This obviously aligns with our religious worldview, basically.
I've seen David Blaine levitate, so I mean,
obviously, yeah, that's proof right there.
Yeah, totally possible.
Yeah.
I'm also reminded of like the Lady of Fatima apparition, where there were the three girls that kept saying they saw the Virgin Mary, and then finally on her last manifestation they brought the whole town out. They're like, no, it's real, and apparently the whole town saw the Virgin Mary, and that's why it's noted as one of the miracles, something. But mass hysteria is a thing that happens. Once you convince yourself that a thing is happening, Salem witch trials is another great case. Like, the people got all carried away. I mean, they had to know it was completely absurd, but they were so scared with the what if that they actually killed people, their fellow villagers.
Yeah. There's a, and once the belief, once those stories become absorbed into the culture, then the people participating in that culture become primed to believe this. Like, there was actually going to be, full transparency, we were actually going to be looking at a different video. When I originally posted this live stream at like 1:30 today, I actually listed Sean McDowell with somebody else, but then I found this video and I was like, this one is way more interesting. But in that other video, he was basically talking about how the culture can accept demonic possession, or how the culture can accept these supernatural explanations for things, and that basically massages the populace into believing these things. So at that point, when you get to that point, whenever you try to rely on like, oh, the populace believes this, or a lot of people believe this, it actually works against that argument, because the culture has primed those people to believe that. You can't look at that and say, oh, these people are being objective, when in fact they are not, because they already have these presuppositions based on their culture. Yeah. So Eddie Dean apparently is going to give us evidence he can walk on water.
Excellent.
But it's in quotes. Walking on water is in quotes. That's pretty sus. I don't know. Is that code for something? I'm a little worried about this.
I mean, I could pour some water on my floor right now and then walk on it.
That's true. That's true. So Eddie, you're gonna have to be a little bit more specific there. I want like what? How deep is the pool? And will you have like floaties attached to your feet or not? Even if you did that would still be impressive.
Some of those boat shoes.
I want receipts, Eddie. Okay, cool. Let's keep on going.
The Satanist, she had an incredibly flamboyant, described as a once-in-a-century possession. I write about her in the book. And she, during her last exorcism...
Incredibly flamboyant, once-in-a-lifetime possession.
I've been to quite a few exorcisms in my life, but I couldn't go to hers. I'm a pretty busy guy. And they all said to me...
He's a pretty busy guy. It was once in a lifetime possession, but I'm a busy guy. I couldn't go see it.
Mm-hmm. But he did confirm that he's been to several. He just slipped it in there, but it's out there.
He did, yeah. I mean, he does do that later on. He says he was an observer at an exorcism, but that doesn't establish that he was actually an observer for the diagnosis. He was there for the treatment, which is kind of sus. But anyway, yeah, once in a lifetime possession. She was levitating. I had a business meeting that day. I just could not make it. Yeah,
important lunch. We were discussing the next book.
Oh man, Eddie, don't write checks you can't cash, Eddie. I'm gonna hold you to this.
For about half an hour during the exorcism. She had to be held down, otherwise she would have ascended further. And this is also reported in history in spiritualist and occult literature.
I'm sorry to keep on pausing. She was levitating. She had to be held down, or else she would have floated off, is basically what you just said. She would have floated off up into the sky.
Because, demons are known for ascending towards heaven at every opportunity.
Yeah, just every once in a while I see a person is going off, and you're like, oh, that's a demon-possessed person.
Maybe it's a delayed rapture.
I wish Richard Gallagher would...
one person at a time.
Yeah. I wish Richard Gallagher would float off into the sky. That'd be kind of nice.
Me too.
Too. They all seem to be partaking of a phenomena that is, again, ultimately caused by evil spirits.
I don't know a lot about exorcism, in part before reading your book carefully, but one of the things that really impressed me is how seriously the Catholic Church does, not all, but many ministries, take diagnosing and dealing with exorcism. What is the training like to become an exorcist? Obviously, somebody can start their own exorcist ministry independently, but say within like the Catholic Church or within another formally recognized institution, what is that process like for somebody who says, I think I'm being called to, or I want to be an exorcist?
First of all, the exorcists are usually carefully chosen.
So the exorcists are usually carefully chosen, but he wasn't. He was chosen by God.
He was called, yep.
He was called.
The other thing is that bothered me about what Sean said was he said, I didn't know much about exorcism.
Yeah.
Like, do you not read the Bible?
Yeah.
Like, you run a Christian ministry, you have a PhD in like Christian stuff, and oh shit, I had to read this book by this guy before I knew a damn thing about exorcism. Sorry, I just couldn't help myself.
Yeah. It's a little trippy. In
the
Bible, when Jesus drives out Legion, he just like does it. Now, granted, you could argue Jesus doesn't need special training, but why would anybody need special training if you just do it? Like, just power of Christ, boom, done. You know?
Yeah. Well, actually, in the book of Acts, the 7 sons of Sceva, which is, I think, an ironic name for a complete number of useful sons are useless and driven out naked when they try to do a demonic exorcism. But when the apostles do it, well, it works first time.
I'm also reminded of there was I think it was on possibly the most recent episode of the Y-Files. They were talking about a demonic possession, And so, it's demon month apparently. But this girl that they talked about, she had like 17 exorcisms. The first 16 didn't take apparently. And I'm like,
Oh wow.
first of all, at what point do you realize this is not working? But
Yeah.
more importantly, like, if you're using the whole power of your faith, you believe you're a true apostle, and then an exorcism fails, well, clearly you're not then, you know?
Later on in this video, Gallagher does basically say what you both just said. Like, he has heard of exorcisms where one and done, like problem solved. Others take weeks, and he even mentions that others take months or years. And I'm like, why is the power of the Lord so wildly inconsistent? Yeah, like why is it so wildly inconsistent in
Holy
its
bunny
efficacy?
ears. You gotta like
Like if it's
And well, okay, so
yeah,
when I was in high school, I dated this person who was a little bit chaotic. Her mother decided that she was possessed by a demon. So she called her pastor over, and the pastor consulted and determined, yeah, she was definitely possessed by a demon. And she and I thought this was funny as hell. And when the pastor came over to do the exorcism, like every crow in the neighborhood like perched on the house, which was the only actual freakiest thing that happened of the whole thing. But like, she told me afterwards, because of course I wasn't allowed to be there because I was the bad influence that had brought Satan into her life, whatever.
of course.
Yeah. But apparently he just like chanted and prayed and did holy oils and stuff, and then decided it was done and fucked off.
It's like, well, my job's done here.
Yeah. Like, okay. And I don't know if he succeeded, but her behavior was pretty much the same. She was just, a teenage girl
Yeah.
doing teenager things.
Yeah, I would love to see recordings of some of these exorcisms. Like according to Gallagher here, like these are spectacular. Like they're speaking in languages. They are distance viewing. They're levitating. Like, show me some video of this. Like, this would be incredible to see. But coincidentally,
I bet the
all you can do is write a book.
energy disrupts the electronic recording device.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course, yeah, of course. Or the demons are shy, and when there's a camera in the room, they just, yeah.
They didn't sign a model release.
If that was the case, if demons were shy and they didn't like cameras, just keep a camera around the person all the time.
demons respect HIPAA.
Just
Holy HIPAA.
Oh, you're right. The demons are afraid of being sued by the federal government for violating HIPAA.
They does kind of track because according
got
to
it,
legend, all the lawyers are in hell. So now that's why the demons are always with the contracts,
Those demons got some sound law advice. Yeah, that's a good observation. See, that's why I bring you guys on to these channels, because this is the type of insight that I need to figure this out.
Totally.
That's beautiful. I love it.
And they are supposed to have a certain spiritual maturity and piety and sort of common sense. This is not a field for histrionic people, or people who are overly credulous. So
The exorcism field is not for people who are overly credulous, according to him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you have to be maybe a little credulous. But
Let's
not
ask Bob
too
Larson.
much. Yeah.
it's often an older priest, and they do have usually special training of some sort. In many ways, the best training is a kind of apprenticeship where they will be under the tutelage of an older or at least more experienced exorcist. There are also several societies in America that are specifically devoted, priestly societies that are specifically devoted to training these people, new exorcists. And there are actually many more exorcists now than when I started. One of the reasons I saw so many cases, Sean, especially in the first 10 years, was that there were very few exorcists. So the exorcists that I worked with, they would use me for a wide variety of cases all over the United States. They became very good friends of mine, and quite frankly, I had an enormous level of experience. Exorcists are usually confined nowadays.
He had an overwhelming level of experience at this point, being sent medical reports and determining whether it's demon possessions or not.
Yep, he's the go-to guy because he gives the
Yeah.
church the rubber stamp they need to do the thing. But he touched on a thing there. Memory's fuzzy. I really should look shit up before we do these. But I remember hearing that there were 2 priests in the whole United States who were authorized to do exorcisms until the movie The Exorcist came out. And then all of a sudden, there were hundreds of demonic possession cases all over the country.
I was trying to find data to support that because I wanted to establish that, yeah, once The Exorcist was released in like, what, 72, 73? Like, it's a pretty old movie at this point.
Yeah, I thought 78, but I could be wrong about that.
70s, yeah, 70s or something. It's basically 45, 50 years old. I was trying to find data to back up the fact that, yeah, exorcism or demon possession reporting and exorcism requests exploded after the movie because that movie pushed this onto the culture. I was trying to find something like that.
Yeah, same thing with the UFO phenomenon. It's unrelated, but it shows the same sort of pattern.
I was thinking the same exact thing. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the traditional grays like appearance of aliens, like that took off after that movie was in theaters. It's like the cultural perception of these topics can be, especially now with our 20th and 21st century technology, of we release a movie with this concept and now massively disseminated among the populace. Like it can sway the culture in different directions very rapidly. I would like to find some data on that, like actual concrete data on how the Exorcist movie affected, the cultural perception of this. Like actually how many, like concrete numbers, how many Exorcist requests jumped after that movie, if any. I would love to see that. Stanley Helms, 1973. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's a pretty old movie. And then I remember, I don't know if you guys watch Red Letter Media. It's a really good YouTube channel. They did a whole review on The Exorcist, and I think also some of his sequels. Fun watch, but yeah, it definitely impacted the culture on that.
To the diocese, because
oh, my tab crashed. What the heck, Chrome? I need a new computer.
How rude.
My tab like straight up like the dead yeah, demons. We're getting too close to the truth, guys. The demons have stopped us.
When in doubt.
Yeah.
All right, I reloaded the tab.
We were at 1545.
Wow, good memory. Thank you.
to the diocese, because it's the individual dioceses that are responsible for selecting and training the exorcists, and they deal with the cases within their diocese. So a lot of exorcists today, they won't really, because of the rarity of these conditions, they really won't see very many of these cases. Unlike myself and the original exorcists that I dealt with, they would see cases all throughout the country.
When you are working on a case of somebody who's oppressed or possessed, are there common experiences as you probe further or beliefs that you find in that person's life, if not always, more often than not, and what are they?
The history is incredibly important. I mean, another major criteria is that you will often get an individual who is not particularly hostile to religion or something, but when the evil spirit manifests itself, the evil spirit is incredibly not only hostile, but afraid of sacred things. But the background of victims varies a little bit. But on the other hand, they usually have made some kind of turn in their life that is very unwise. They've either turned to something of a serious nature, occult.
So right here, he's now this is the part where he's shifting the blame onto whoever's the sufferer.
They did it to themselves.
This is not God's fault for allowing this to happen. This is your fault for inviting it in. That's what he's about to do. And I looked at his book reviews on Amazon, and I immediately went to the book, I went to the reviews, and I went to 1-star review because I wanted to see who was the most critical of this. And there were people in there mentioning, there were people in there mentioning basically like, this guy thinks that everything's demonic, even yoga. Like, he's going to mention a few things here, but according to that one reviewer, this guy thinks yoga is demonic, according to that one reviewer. Whether that's in the book or not, I'm not sure. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. But there is some line, there are some set of activities that you can do that will invite demons into your life. That's certain what he thinks. How far that line is, I don't know, but we'll see what he says here.
Or dark. Obviously, in Julia's case, it was Satanism, but other people turn to lesser degrees of witchcraft or some type of slightly dark spiritualism or something. And at the same time, many of them, or independently, people turn to very sinful or evil practices. In some ways, they have invited, either directly or indirectly, they have invited, again, with a possession, they have invited the evil spirit in. So, for instance, in Julia's case, it was
If you're possessed, you invited that demon in. You did. That's what he's saying.
very
That's
obvious. She worshiped Satan.
unbiblical.
She thought she was
Also,
getting
Isn't it?
yeah, because there was
Like-
a demon possessed child in the Bible. There's a woman that was taken advantage of in the Book of Acts. Like, I could do this
A
all day.
herd of pigs.
Yeah. Well, Jesus did that to the herd of pigs. Like
Detail.
Jesus.
But
Like-
Jesus is God, and it yada yada yada.
Yeah, but
I mean,
yeah.
if there were a formula to this, if there were certain things you could do that caused a demon to be invited into your life, then how is it that there's millions of people who do every single thing he lists who never get afflicted by demons?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there not enough demons?
Yeah.
There's a
I've-
demon shortage apparently.
I am a huge Diablo fan. I have Diablo 1, 2, and 3 collector's editions up there on my shelf. I have never once experienced demonic disturbances. I'm buying Diablo 4 when it comes out in a month and a half. Like, that, it's literally in the name. Nothing's happened to me. Like, and also going back to my
that you
video
know of.
that I know of, yeah. Maybe I'm actually working for them.
It's this
yeah.
YouTube channel.
Yep.
Maybe I'm this whole channel, this live stream. I'm misdirecting all of you. Yeah. But no. Like in my video from 3 weeks ago, the guy Ralph Anderson in that Awake magazine practiced the occult, and he eventually experienced relief, partial relief, at the hands of the Jehovah's Witness God. And then this guy here is saying that these people experience relief at the Catholic God. And there are lots of other religions out there where these people experience relief at their different, deities. Like, how are we supposed to know which one actually solved the problem or not? Maybe the problem itself is misdiagnosed. Of course, that's not possible because this guy's an expert.
That couldn't be.
Yeah.
That couldn't be.
This guy's an expert. He's got tons of experience. He's rubber stamped all kinds of papers. Like, he's a pro. Yeah. Yeah, makes no sense. And Mark Reed, I am 300% is pretty generous, but I'll take it. Thank you.
Well, I mean, when you start so low, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a nobody. You kidding me? My channel is 3 months old. I'm a nobody. No, but thank you, Mark. I really appreciate that. It was very nice of you. I can't wait for Diablo 4 to come out, by the way. Like early June. Oh my God. When June hits, I might disappear for a month or two because I'll be playing Diablo 3. Or
All of a sudden,
4.
Skeptics and Scoundrels is a Let's Play channel.
Yeah, there you go. I'll play like Cameron Bertuzzi's conversion to Christianity or conversion to Catholicism. I'll convert to gamerism on my channel.
There was a time that Capturing Christianity wanted to do like apologetics discussions while games were playing in the background, and I think I was still a Christian when he was talking about that. I'm like, no.
yeah, we atheist types can get away with that because we're heathens, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
like Owen Telltale, he plays Zelda while he's talking about politics, which is great. I mean, it
Earlier
works.
today, he wasn't just playing Pokemon. He was cheating at Pokemon. He had God's Not Dead playing in his little viewer thing, and he just outright admitted, he's like, guys, I am cheating.
Man,
I'm not even trying to hide it. I want to have fun with this while we laugh at this stupid movie.
I envy Owen's ability to multitask. Like if I was sitting here playing a video game, like I feel like I'm barely holding a coherent conversation as is. If I was playing a video game, I would just be gone. Yeah.
I've noticed that too. Like it's not just the video game either. Like occasionally he'll have to like step back or something because he misses something. But I mean, he's running his stream. He's monitoring 2 sets of chats in a separate computer window, and running his recording for later editing and redistribution. And I'm like, my
the guy's a
dude.
robot.
Yeah.
if there is any evidence that androids are among us, I think Owen is one example. Like he is a computer. Okay, cool. So let's keep on going then. Yeah, play Diablo 4 when it comes out. I played the beta. It's pretty fucking awesome. I totally recommend it.
A lot out of it, but it was literally what we call a Faustian bargain. She got much
Wow.
more than she bargained for. In another case, I read about a book. I read about a guy who was a criminal, and he was kind of a drug kingpin of sorts. And he had turned to a Mexican occult cult called Santa Muerte, and he was a pretty nasty guy. He was eventually in prison for his crimes, and the chaplain at the prison found that he was possessed. He did eventually get help, but obviously in his case, probably even more than his involvement with the occult, which was a factor, was the fact that he had led such an evil criminal life. Mm-hmm. So in the worst cases, that's what you often see. In cases of oppression, it's different. You don't necessarily see somebody who's horribly involved in evil, but they usually have dabbled in occultism or something like that. There's some reason that they have these more minor harassment or oppression by a demon.
Your training is in psychiatry or boards.
Okay, so we're about to switch into so we're done with that section. We're about to switch into what mental illnesses resemble diabolic attacks. So I just want to check in. We're 2 hours in, or almost 2 hours in. How's everybody doing? Should we stop here and maybe take some comments?
Yeah.
Or
let's take comments.
Okay, cool. Because I know
that Stephanie did point out in the chat that the most likely cause is probably that the person was abused, like the woman with the bruising, like abused by a significant other or something like that. And it was interesting to me that the doctor said he ruled out all like instability in that person, but if he didn't like question them face to face, right? Like then how could you rule out that very obvious, cause?
Yeah, how
like
do you know
just
who
can't.
else is around that might be doing it? And I can actually see that being a case for even grown men, like the criminal he was talking about. It's easier to say a demon did this to me than my wife did this to me for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah. That's actually a very good observation, is that there are very naturalistic explanations about the bruising, about the beatings, about all these other things that Gallagher wasn't there to verify or disqualify any of those things. Like he doesn't know. He's just going off of the word of whatever exorcist is handling the case. It seems like he's not going through a medical team to interact with this person. It is through a religious team. It is through a team that they have been called in because it's possible demon possession. So they're going to obviously. Well, first of all, they're obviously not going to handle it like medical professionals. They're not going to ask the appropriate questions. They're not going to show the objectivity that a medical professional would. Everything is going to be through the lens of possible demon possession here. What do you think? And
there's so much motivated reasoning and confirmation bias and magical thinking of every flavor.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good observation. We'll go ahead and stop it here for the night. We're 1/3 of the way through the video. So maybe what we'll do is, no obligation if you guys don't have the time or you don't want to. Next Wednesday, I'm going to pick it back up from this timestamp. Sure. Feel free to come back and join us and talk more about it. This was really fun. I had a really great time. We can pick it up and keep on going. Quick question for those in the chat. We have 19 people in chat. I'm on the West Coast, so when I start this at 8:30, it is just 8:30. But I know for the East Coast, like for Ember, it's 11:30 when this starts, so that's pretty late.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, should I bump this back to? Here's the thing: on Wednesdays, if I bump this back to 6:30, I'm starting right when the line starts, and then
you don't want to fight with Dillahunty.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, not that it's a big deal or anything like that. It's not like a fight or anything, but I want to maximize exposure and stuff like that. So, I'll maybe re-examine exactly what day I'm experimenting at this point. I'm experimenting on days and start times. I've had some suggestions for Wednesday.
I can kind of relate. Like the Sunday show that I do, I start it
Yeah.
when I do because all the other Atheist Sunday shows are over. Like,
Yeah.
Atheist Experience is done, and then,
Yeah.
Jimmy Snow always cuts the Sunday show on the line short so he can go do Aaron Ra's thing, hang out in Aaron Ra's chat for like an hour or so. But on the flip side, there's so many thousands of eyeballs on YouTube at any given moment. I don't know that it actually is a benefit to work around these big shows, because you may end up with more viewers if you're on at the same time, because there's so many people who aren't watching those, who will watch them the next day or next week, or just don't watch those channels at all.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and plus, like the market is saturated, so it's probably impossible to find like a slot that's not really used as prime anymore. So tonight was an experiment. Wednesday night, I had a couple in my last stream. I had a couple suggestions that Wednesday's a good night. I think it was I can't remember exactly who, but some people suggest Wednesday. If I bump it back to say 6:30 Pacific time, that'll make it 9:30 Eastern time. So that's still fairly early in the evening, or not too late for a lot of people. I'll figure it out. So
Good for me.
maybe
Either way.
yeah, maybe next week, maybe at 6:30 on some night. We'll see.
And to those watching, if you
Yeah.
aren't subbed to Ember, like, what's wrong with you?
Yes, sub to
Like,
Ember. He's awesome.
such a cool guy. Like, I got introduced to you recently through the good old algorithm, and your appearance on other live shows and call-ins. I think you called in like the line once, or something.
Yeah,
you talked with them,
briefly.
and
I
I'm
talked
like,
to
man,
Forrest
this
on one call.
guy is cool. Like, and then I found your channel, and yeah, so it's good to be on stream with you.
Yeah, sub to both these guys. Sub to Ember, sub to Nitty. They're both very fun to listen to, and they're very insightful. And as you can see here, they're also very likable.
I could be a scoundrel, though. I mean,
yeah.
Well, that's why
We're
you're
all-
here, because scoundrels.
It's true.
We're all skeptics and scoundrels. Yeah. I've had some criticism about my name, because like, how dare you call yourself a skeptic and other people scoundrels? And I'm like, what makes you think that I'm not the scoundrel and you're the skeptic, or whatever? Yeah. So, just everyone sub to Ember, sub to Nitty. Feel free to post your links to you both should be mods. You should both be able to link to your YouTube pages.
Yeah, post the links and things. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can figure out how to do that. I mean, I know how to do that. It's just my camera's sitting right on top of my keyboard.
I got you. I can always do it for you too. Let me see here. See if I can link to both you guys.
I got it. Mine.
Pew.
Wait for that to pop up. And then before everybody leaves, I'm going to read some chats and stuff. We'll kind of wind it down. So yeah, here we go. So there's Nitty's link. And then there's Ember's link. Ember is actually using his handle. Nitty's is
I have a handle too. Hold on.
Either one works.
Yeah, it's such a pain, because on the one hand, it's a lot easier than the long channel URL thing, but on the other hand, when people search for Ember, they don't find me, so I have to do the whole thing.
The qualify.
Because between the channel being tiny and other things being named Ember, I'm like 10th down the list, right behind a dog that's named Ember, and just above a hot coffee mug that's called an Ember thermos.
Speaking of dogs, you want to see mine?
Oh my
Sure.
gosh.
Down here.
Oh, your doggo's here.
Yeah, my doggo's here.
My cats have not wanted to invade the stream today, so.
All right, so she's been napping for 3 hours, but here she is.
That's a cute old Bujo.
This
Is that a corgi
Sophie.
mix?
It's just Corgi.
Oh, yay, I love corgis.
She's a good girl. Yeah, her name's Sophie. I have another one named Howl. They're both crazy, probably demon possessed. So Yeah.
We should ask Dr. Gallagher. Of course, it's pre-recorded, but so far we've been putting out questions and he's been answering them. So, maybe. But aside from that tale with the pigs in the Bible where Jesus did it on purpose, can animals be demon-possessed?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I was recently in Japan. I was in Japan about 2 months ago. In Kyoto, there's a nearby mountain you can scale. You go up to this like encampment with a building, and there are wild monkeys there that you can basically feed and stuff. And some of them were insane. Like there's multiple signs on the path up to this monkey habitat, basically saying, "Don't stare at them. Don't bury your teeth at them. Don't show food at them because they will attack you." And when we got all the way up there, and there was plenty of monkeys everywhere, they were pretty nuts. Like I saw adult monkeys beating up baby monkeys over food.
Rude.
All kinds of crazy stuff. So yeah, who knows? Maybe some demons are involved there. I don't know. I'll get Gallagher over there. I'll bring your Gallagher over and say, "Hey, Gallagher,
We're going to Japan.
are these monkeys demon possessed? Can you perform, or can you get your buddies to perform an exorcism? Maybe they'll make these monkeys more sociable."
Yeah.
Yeah.
He only needs reports, so we'll just have to have the zoologist write up the behavior and send it to him.
I can just show him photos. Yeah, I got videos of these monkeys doing crazy things.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. I'll maybe have to share it at one point. But yeah, that was a fun trip. Mark Reed says there are monkeys in India that steal cameras and other valuables, then ransom them back to people for food. Yeah,
Sounds
makes
about right.
sense. Makes sense. Animals are very Animals are very intuitive or ingenious when it comes to how to increase the likelihood of getting food. Like it's
Humans have food. Humans are slow. Humans are kind of dumb.
Yeah. You're kind of dumb. Humans like their cameras. If I take their camera, then they'll trade me. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, cool, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up here. What's a good view to use? This one's
There you
good. I
go.
like this one better. Yeah, this one's much better. Cool. So any closing comments or anything? Anything you guys want to say? If not, we'll sign out, go to sleep.
No,
I'm still not convinced.
This was fun, though.
All this dude's talk of paperwork and officialness and so on. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of the first Star Wars movie with the Congress scene. Like, it's not what I signed up for, man. You know?
Yeah. I signed up for Star Wars, not Star Politics.
Yeah, it's like with this dude, tell me about some freaking crazy demon stuff you've seen, not how you go through the process of getting church certified and shit.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the season finale of Mandalorian, I think, has already been aired. I should go watch that. I haven't watched it yet because I've been here with you fine folks. So
Yeah.
And then
I won't say a word.
I'm way behind on all that because I don't even have Disney Plus. I only have Prime for the photo storage, because photographer thing. And incidentally, anybody else, a photographer out there, if you have Prime, you get infinite photo storage. It's a perk that almost nobody knows about because they don't advertise it. Photos only, not video. But yeah, infinite storage. Very handy for an offsite backup. But that's neither here nor there. So Prime is the only subscription service I have for that unrelated reason. But I just heard that yesterday, I think I saw that the final season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is out. Or at least it's partly out. Something like that. Yeah.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. What kind of show is that?
I haven't heard of this. It's a trip. So basically there's this young woman, her husband leaves her, and she just kind of becomes a stand-up comic. And there's a whole, and it's in the 1950s and then later in the early 60s. And there's so many ridiculous hang-ups along the way, but as you might expect with a woman in that time who suddenly has no husband and etc. But she's a genuinely hilarious person. So it's a really cool story. Yeah, there's a lot of emotional stuff in there too, like her ex-husband really regrets leaving her really, really quickly. And you get a little bit of revenge. Schadenfreude. That's the word I'm looking for.
Schadenfreude, yeah.
Yeah.
Is this on Hulu, Prime,
Prime.
Netflix? Prime. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm a subscriber to Prime. Yeah, okay, I'll have to check that out. I think, yeah, I'll be watching Star Trek or Star Wars tonight, and I think at like 1 a.m. my time, Star Trek Picard season finale becomes available, which I'll be watching as well.
I need to get so many more streaming services.
Yeah. So with Picard, you can skip season 1 and 2. Just watch season 3. It's pretty good. But yeah, so I'll be probably doing that here in a little bit. Cool. Okay. Well, hey.
Wait, I do want to say this at the end.
Yeah.
If you or anyone you know is believing that they may be experiencing demons, see a licensed professional, get
Yes.
help.
A
People
psychiatrist.
love you, accept you. Don't go fall for woo. Call a hotline, seek medical help. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go to a counselor.
Don't feel any
Don't call
shame.
Dr. Richard here or
don't
any
call
of his
these motherfuckers.
pastor priests. Yeah.
Yeah. Get help. Mental,
Or if you know
mental health care.
someone, like assure them that they will be okay, that you know you don't need to go to the church, you don't need to go somewhere else. Please seek medical help for them.
Mental health care is as important as physical health care. Do not be ashamed
right.
of it. Go get real help. Go to a psychiatrist. Go to a counselor. If you feel like you are at your rope, you're at the end of your rope, you feel like you can't go any further, you just want to talk to somebody about things that go on, go find somebody. You can find a counselor that will listen to you. And if you find a counselor that you don't like, find a different one.
Yep.
Like it's not anything to be ashamed of. It's okay. It's like going to the doctor with the flu. Like you have the flu of the brain. You need to go and get some help, and it's okay to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Don't go get an exorcist. Don't go find a priest. Get somebody who is,
don't go to a deliverance ministry.
Trained to do this. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I've gone to counselors. They've been very helpful.
Same.
Yeah, it's
Also same.
It's nothing to be ashamed of.
It took me a while because I had to find one that I could access by telephone, because a lot of them want to see you in person, but I just couldn't do it between work and everything. When I was off, when I wasn't at work, they had no office hours, so it had to be by phone. But now there's more and more telemedicine, so I was finally able to do it. Tremendously helpful.
Yep.
Everybody should. I think even people who don't think they need help could benefit, because it could help sort out some. It takes a huge weight off of you, is what I'm saying.
I've done outpatient mental health care. I mean, it's a thing.
Yeah. And if you have to go through 5 counselors till you find the right one, go through 5 counselors till you find the right one. Like that's what's important. That's what I like about Star Trek so much, is that like as badly written as Counselor Troy's counseling profession was, like I liked her as a character and as a person. In Star Trek, she was poorly written as a counselor, but the point is, on the ship, she treated everyone. Everyone came to her to talk, even if they weren't experiencing like mental distress. Like it was as important as your yearly checkup with Beverly Crusher. Like go talk to somebody. It can only do you good. It can't help. It can't really hurt you. Yeah. So anyway, okay. Well, hey, Ember, Nitty, thank you so much for joining me. Nitty, I know this was impromptu. Thank you so much. You're a sport, man. You just hopped right on in and just off we went. So,
cool.
And Ember, thank you very much for hanging out. I'll
Always a
schedule. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll schedule one for next week. I'll make it earlier in the day so you guys aren't zombies by the end of it. And yeah, we'll have some more funs here. So we'll pick it up probably next time on this. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to plug my next videos. On this weekend, I have 2 videos, or rather 2 streams coming out. One is I'll be hanging out with David from Deep Dreams Podcast. We are going to do a demon tier list. We're going to take the demon stories from the Bible along with some other demon anecdotes and
I'll
just
be there.
Make a tier list, have some fun. I'm going to be drinking more Fosters.
You're definitely developing a brand.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dave is Australian, so he should appreciate this.
Yeah.
The American idea of an Australian beer. I'm sure he'll appreciate that plenty. yeah, so I'll be doing that with David on the 23rd. Let me double check that. Just want to make sure. On the 23rd, I'll be doing that with David. And then on the 24th, I'll be on David's channel talking about whatever. I'm not quite sure what it is. It'll probably be more like a Godless Granny, Godless Engineer, Neil, 604 Atheist. I'll just be talking about my background.
Your story, yeah.
But yeah, we'll be talking on his channel.
David's great. If you're
David's
not subscribed to Deep Drinks Podcast, I mean...
Yes. He put together a 2-part panel on slavery. He had 4 or 5 doctors on the show, just annihilated Old Testament slavery. So yeah, definitely go watch that if you guys are still on that. So anyway, we're down to 13 viewers. We better end it now. Thank you guys. Catch you later.
We're
Get the fuck out of here.
Grandma thing.
Yeah. I think I stretched it out too much. Have a good night, guys. Bye.
Night, folks.